Amicable divorce is almost always a better divorce. It's going to be faster, it's going to be cheaper, and it's going to deliver better outcomes, not just financially, but also emotionally and relationally. And I want to talk about this because for many people, it feels like amicable divorce is simply not an option. For reasons X, Y, or Z, people feel this isn't for me, this isn't going to work in our situation. I wish I could do it, but it's just not going to work. Therefore, ... We end up hiring attorneys, we get some court dates going, we end up spending tens of thousands of dollars, and we engage in this really painful, long, drawn-out process that's likely not going to deliver you to where you want to be when it's all said and done. And it's important that we talk about this because there's an incorrect belief that a lot of people have around amicable divorce, which is that people who have an amicable divorce must be people who don't have a whole lot of conflict going on in their relationship. These are people who have no problem sitting at the same table with one another, looking one another in the eye, having a nice, calm conversation, and just easily talking about custody and spousal support and division of assets and all of the important things, right? And just said and done. But I want to remind you that these are people who are getting divorced. Millions of people have an amicable divorce, and these are people who, like you, have a tremendous amount of conflict going on in their relationship. So much conflict that it's actually been irreconcilable that they actually could find a solution to their problems, which is why they too are getting divorced in the first place. So it's not necessarily that people who get an amicable divorce don't have any conflict going on. It's really that they get the right support to hold a container, right, and to help work around and through and maybe even resolve some of the conflict that is there and get them to the end point that they want to get to. Now, this is important because if you've taken amicable divorce off the table, it means that there's an opportunity to put it back on. And this is the work that I love to do with people, is to find a way, regardless of where you're at in your journey, whether you're thinking about divorce, whether it's the very early stages of it, or whether you're 6 months into the process, but helping you find a way to get amicable back onto the table so that you can save money, you can save time, and you can actually get the better outcomes that you're wanting for yourself and for your family. And look, to be honest, this is going to take a lot of leadership if this is what you want. Somebody has to really want this, and somebody has to really show up, get that initial support, and start cracking open these conversations because, look, trust is usually not at an all-time high. So if a person shows up, and maybe this is you saying, hey, I think amicable is a good idea, I think we should do this, are you into it? It's really easy for the other person to not really trust what your motivations might be and to just shut it down. So what I like to help people to do is to think about, if you're the one who really wants amicable, let's spend some time thinking about how this actually is something that your spouse may want to. And to frame the entire invitation, the entire conversation in terms of how this aligns with what they want. Because you know them better than anyone else. You know what they like, you know what they don't like, you know what they're hoping to get out of this whole divorce process. You're actually in an excellent situation for positioning this in a way that can be receptive, right? That they can be receptive to. And look, I have seen people who you might think there's no way amicable could work come back full circle on this, right? I've worked with an individual who, between the two of them, had already spent more than $20,000 on attorneys, right? And those attorneys were nowhere near the end of negotiations. And so now there was interest around preserving what assets they did have to find a way to open up conversation with one another, kind of set the attorneys to the side for a little bit and figure out the rest of what needed to get figured out so they didn't have to spend another $10,000 to $15,000 to do that. I've worked with other individuals who haven't even been able to communicate with their spouse because there was a restraining order in place. Actually find creative ways of warming up the communication, finding alternative ways of communicating, and getting that person drawn in and considering of amicable approaches rather than doing everything through attorneys, which is just unfortunately so common these days. So if any of this resonates and you find yourself in this situation of wanting amicable divorce but feeling like it's out of reach, please hit me up. Go to my website, bestpossibledivorce.com. There's buttons all over it. You can set up a 45-minute free consult and we can start to unpack how you can get amicable back on the table. All right, take care.